Rogan Report podcast. Check it out.
All things Joe Rogan by day. Rogan Report podcast by night. All day. All night. A half hour to an hour-ish episodes once a week.
The Rogan Report podcast.
All right, Shane.
How you
Welcome
doing?
to season 1, episode 4 already.
We're
Feels-
flying through this.
Feels like we haven't even done an episode yet.
No, still feels that way.
It's so new. The time has been flying. We're almost ready to launch here. We're planning on launching with 4 episodes already recorded and ready to go.
Yep.
When you
super
were
exciting.
researching, that sounded like a thing that people thought was a good idea, right?
People like to be able to binge out on the first couple episodes to get committed or not committed,
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, to learn that you really don't like our character.
Yeah.
You don't like the way our voices sound, for sure.
Yep.
And
I don't.
Yeah. Let's let the rest of the world know.
For sure.
So we've got some. You got some notes here.
I do.
We have only 4. A little bit of a lighter week for Rogan. You know, he often does 5 in a week, and it was only 4. And
Yeah.
I was done by listening to them by like Friday, and I was like, wow. Normally I'm like trying to get the last episode in on Saturday or Sunday.
Yep.
Started with Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Okay. 1170. She's a congresswoman for Hawaii. You know, speaking of not liking someone's tone of voice,
Mhm.
she had a boring ass
Yeah.
tone.
She sounded like a politician.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And she, I mean, in some ways she did sound like a politician. In other ways she didn't, because the stuff she was saying was all like reasonable, and it didn't seem like, you know, and one thing Rogan commented was that she seemed genuine.
Mhm.
But so she didn't seem like she was like making up lies, and she wasn't using the like, today we must go forward.
Yeah.
And I believe that we can all benefit. You know, like
I guess,
like,
yeah, that's your classic politician
yeah,
voice.
she wasn't using that like speak. She was just kind of speaking, you know, genuinely, but yeah, just a little bit of a lower register, and obviously a very intelligent lady.
Yep.
She thinks that super delegates are stupid,
Mhm.
and I would tend to agree with that.
Me
You know,
too.
It should be, you know, one person, one vote.
Yep.
You know, if anything has been illustrated by this ridiculous presidency that they have in the States right now, it's that they need some reforms
I
there.
think so.
And
Yeah.
hopefully that's what they get from this. That could be I mean, if it's all worth it, I think, right? If they change the system. I love when Rogan talks about, you know, how there should be a group of 10 guys that are the president.
Yeah.
And, you know, how you should be able to vote. If you can do banking online, you should be able to vote online in a secure,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah, they touched on that quite a bit and how easy it is to hack that system.
Yeah, like it was like a 9-year-old girl or something that hacked it when they first set up their tests for it.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some issues there. But how come the banking world, like my bank account has your bank account ever been hacked?
No.
No, me neither. I've never heard of any of my friends having their bank accounts hacked.
But if it
So-
had, they probably looked in there and they're like, meh, moving on. Next.
Yeah, our friends. Like, damn, they took my $7.
I was getting a Timmy's here right away.
But I just have never heard of it. So if they can have security in the financial world through the internet, we should be able to have security for voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Speaking of things that Rogan's brought up repeatedly, the documentary Hacking Democracy
Sure.
has certainly come up a number of times.
Yeah. Fucking Florida.
Yeah. It's always Florida.
Yeah. I think I've talked about it in Rogan actually, but a Florida man Twitter, and it's like, a Florida man went out hiking and was eaten by 3 crocodiles when he decided to go for a swim in something that he clearly should not have decided to swim in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that Florida man Twitter? It's like a Twitter account, I think, and they just retweet. I think it's like mostly news and like police, scanner or something.
I have not,
Something like that.
but
yeah.
I certainly think we're going to have to follow it.
Yeah, definitely. We should. Speaking of our Twitters and us following people, at Rogan Report Pod or at the Rogan Report, those are all the ways to find us. Just search those things. Hopefully, you'll just be able to Google search the Rogan Report, and that'll bring up everything you need to know. But we're pretty pro. We got a website now.
Absolutely.
We spent an hour yesterday working on it.
We're going deep.
An hour or 6.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot to get organized here, but we're loving it, and it's been a lot of fun kind of putting this show together. So thank you, listeners. Let me just throw out an early thank you. Of course, we always want to recap our thank yous at the end and show some mad love. But
sure.
yeah, I'll show a little mad love right now.
Every listen, I appreciate it so much.
So much.
1171.
Nick Yarris. Holy shit.
I saw this guy on a documentary on Netflix maybe a year or two ago.
Okay, so you kind of had some idea of what was coming?
Yeah, I was excited for this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rogan warns right off the bat. He's like, this is a heavy episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the understatement of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Dude's like crying, telling his story in the first like 10 minutes. And you're just like, oh my God, he just really makes you feel for him.
He gets Rogan, I believe.
Yeah. And then like an hour and a half in, I'm like, okay, is this all real? I'm like, okay, now it's been 13 years and all the bad things are still happening to you?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
how much of it are you, do you buy it all?
Listen, I bought the prison thing. Absolutely. That's
Absolutely.
100%. There's no not buying it.
Shit end of the stick there.
But at some point, you're going to have to take control of your own life.
Yeah, take some responsibility.
It's not everyone else's responsibility to fix it forever.
I don't know.
I mean, he was wrong done.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and that's going to fuck you up, like, also for the rest of your life, too. So, you know, he does get some, like, leeway, I think.
Yeah.
But also he's like, okay, you know, maybe some of these relationships with these women, you know, maybe you got to kind of own your part of it. And maybe, you know.
I mean, it's just my instinct. I mean, I felt from, like you said, up to an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, maybe I should just turn this off. I don't want to feel a way about you.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But definitely, super raw deal. He was, I guess we should say, he was wrongfully convicted of rape and murder and sentenced to death and spent 22 years on death row.
Yeah.
From like 82 to 94, something like that.
And to hear him tell it, he was basically beaten and tortured by the prison guards.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
They were made to be quiet for 2 years, he said.
I can't even imagine.
At the penalty of a beating.
It's
basically.
shocking that he's as like coherent and well-adjusted as he is.
Yeah. Well, he went into that a lot too. How he studied how to soft speak, basically how to talk nice and be nice, be a good person.
Yeah.
And
he was
so I'm with
very
him for
like
all that.
non-threatening, like in his tones and how he was talking to Rogan. He was very like, "Hey man, I'm just like here to help you out."
Yeah,
I do that. That's my that's my Nick Yarris impression. Hey man, I did all these things and everyone hates me and they did a whole lot of wrong to me, but it's okay because I'm here now and I'm gonna do all the best things. I'm gonna teach all the kids how to be good.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's right. That's just my memory.
No,
Sometimes
I mean,
I feel like I'm doing it like I can feel like I have an impression and I'll do it and I'll try to speak some way and then I'll go and I'll listen and I'll hear the actual person. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds nothing like what my memory of what that person sounded like was. You do any impressions, Shane?
I definitely do when I'm alone.
Okay,
and one day they're going to come out by accident and on purpose. I promise you that.
Okay. I think, you know, obviously this whole podcast, the theory of it is we're talking all things Rogan because we're super fans. But I think the interesting thing for our listeners, you know, probably most of them already listen to these podcasts. The interesting things for our listeners is to kind of get to know us as, you know, by way of Joe Rogan's podcast and by way of us speaking about these topics.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool thing. Hopefully people enjoy that. And hopefully like one day my great grandchildren can fire up the Rogan Report podcast and they can find out about who I was and what life was like in the year 2018.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right? Yeah, they're going to be like, man, my iPhone 12 doesn't work with my flying car. Fucking, I'm not listening to the stupid podcast. I don't know.
So, I mean, what else did he talked about how he met Kofi Annan. Did a bunch of speaking in London. So, I mean, he did have some renown.
Yeah, and it sounded like those, you know, from the feedback he was getting at those engagements, he was going really well. It seems like he has a real talent for that.
Yeah,
and that's an awesome thing about like going out and being a benefit to the world doing that stuff, and he should be compensated for that.
I think so.
Also,
he's a great storyteller.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like when he's not affecting it with like I don't know that he's affecting it or not, but at this point, you got to think he's told that story how many times?
Yeah,
we're getting this emotional every time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
That's
I'm
sad.
cold-hearted.
Yeah. Let me accuse you of rape and murder, and then beat you for
Well,
2 years.
that's another part of it, right? Even from his childhood, he said he was beaten and raped and beaten with a rock in the head to the point of getting aphasia.
Yeah,
and
that's not good for you.
No, and so that kicked off a whole troubled youth, which of course led up to the wrongful conviction.
Any of us would be each other in those circumstances.
I think so.
I think that's like kind of what Rogan talks about also kind of regularly, is we were just luck of the draw that we were born into families that at least cared about us as much as they did, right?
Yeah.
My parents are wonderful human beings, and
most of us don't have adversity like that.
Yeah, not like that. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And all of us have other adversities and things, but nothing like that.
No.
Nearly shot in the head when he was escaping and running for 4 hours to get away from.
I liked that story.
Sort of, yeah. That was my favorite story, I think, of the whole,
the
whole thing. He's not even trying to escape. He's coming out of the washroom, and the one guard let him out, and he's like, okay, and he's going to and the other guard, I guess they hadn't communicated, so the other guard assumes that he's escaping and pulls his gun out and is like, hey, stop, and starts, and he's like, what do you mean stop, what? And then he starts running away, and he's getting shot at. He's like, holy fuck, I wasn't even trying to escape. Now he's been running a marathon, essentially.
Yeah.
And he was in Florida or something. Like he ran along.
Blew out his ankles and everything.
Yeah, blew out his ankles.
Tore his ACL.
Poor guy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and he tells the story better than I did. So go listen to this one. I would say, if we're rating the podcast, we didn't talk about the rating for Tulsi Gabbard. 3 out of 5 Darce chokes.
Darce chokes today?
At least for that episode.
Okay, yeah. I'd give her a solid 3.5 because I liked her points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 on tone of voice.
Yeah, a little sleepy.
And then what about a rating for Nick Yarris? Do you want to throw a rating on there?
Yeah, I'll give him a 3.5.
3.5 also?
Yeah.
You thought those were equivalent podcasts.
Yeah.
But you said you were excited
Different
to
reasons.
listen to Nick
I
Yarris.
was like I said.
Which is it, Shane?
I'm telling you, after listening to that podcast, was less excited about it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Was less.
Yeah. Still an incredible story. I don't know, listeners, you tell us what you think. I don't want to sound like a dick for not believing the guy who had the worst life of all time, but I don't know.
No, yeah,
It seemed like there was something. Not everything was 100% as he was presenting it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got his side of the story.
I don't want to go any deeper on it.
No, we might as well not. And then MMA show 41, TJ DillaShaw and Duane Ludwig. You're a big TJ fan.
Freaking love TJ.
Yeah,
he's one of my favorites right now.
You know what? I like him a whole lot more after this podcast.
Yeah.
I thought he's really well spoken and really clear, and he wasn't at all douchey. I kind of expected him to come in and be like, fuck everybody else. I'm the champion. I won.
Yeah.
Especially fuck
Cody Garbrandt.
Well, not even Cody, but Cody Garbrandt and
but the Alpha team.
The whole Alpha team.
Yeah.
Fuck them all and their little asses. And, I kind of expected that. And he wasn't really disparaging him. He's like, I feel bad for Cody. He kind of got stuck in the middle of this thing. And, obviously it wasn't the right spot for him at Team Alpha.
He was
Male.
expected to shoulder this whole beef that existed kind of before him.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, or sort of right at the beginning of when he came there.
Yeah, and TJ didn't belong there. He's found a better spot for him. That's absolutely 100% clear.
And clearly it worked.
Yeah, he's doing better. So yeah. I thought he did a really good job on the podcast.
Absolutely. I think he might be the most professional fighter in MMA. I've never heard anybody taking their body so seriously. This guy's never not in shape.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty meticulous. I mean, he'll have the odd little bit of mouth pleasure, but he keeps it pretty good.
Yeah. Love his fighting style too. That snake thing he does.
Totally.
Yeah, love it.
Him and who was the other champ that Cody knocked out that I'm spacing on his name right now?
Dominic
Cruz. Yeah.
Yeah.
That fight with him and Dominic Cruz was one of my favorite fights in MMA that has ever existed.
And a lot of people, including TJ, have that fight as his.
It's there's that's got to be in strike per minute, like that's got to be in the top 5 in all of MMA ever, right?
Yeah. And they're both so amazing in the way they move.
Yeah,
and,
the
like,
movement was
so unpredictable.
Made that, and they were, kind of back and forth. It was such a close fight. You think if they go again?
I think it's all TJ.
Yeah,
I think
it's TJ's
Dominic's
time.
time might be done. Unfortunately.
That's too bad, because I was a big Dominic Cruz fan, and I was happy that Dom won that, and I was like, oh, fucking TJ the douche. Seemed douchey to me because I think he plays that up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he changed my mind. Good job, Tej.
Yeah.
What else did they talk about? They talked about
the cordyceps mushrooms again.
Yeah,
Joe's definitely hit
Cordyceps
up
mushrooms.
the cordyceps mushrooms a bunch.
allows you to work out harder and
Yep. But they're grown on the back of caterpillars, which
Yeah.
is super interesting little factoid.
that's a fucked up thing.
Yeah.
You ever grow anything on the back of a caterpillar?
I have not tried.
Maybe some like tomatoes or something.
I feel like you're gonna have to have a lot of caterpillars around to make that worth it. I don't know if that's my life.
They talked about Brock Lesnar getting diverticulitis. That's how you say it. Diverticulitis? Yes. From a seed apparently that he ate, and it got like stuck in his intestines or something, and he got diverticulitis.
Yeah.
That seems like a bad deal.
Terrible deal.
Yeah.
They also kind of mentioned he's been looking a lot smaller. And I have not looked myself, but
because he's trying to.
he's cleaning up.
Yeah, that's the implication.
Yeah.
So, is it set for him to fight?
I think it is. I'm not sure when though. I don't think they have a date.
Really?
A little off topic, but it's looking like John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson for, is it 230, I think?
Is that October 6th? No, that's
no,
the
it's in
next one
December.
after.
I
Okay,
think.
cool.
I might be wrong on that. No, it's 233, I think. There was talk
okay.
of it. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love John Jones.
Oh, yeah, he's the
And
best.
I don't think he's trying to fuck up. I think he just
Is a
trouble
fuck up.
befalls him. Yeah, he is a fuck up
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorites still, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, back to TJ a little bit. There's this potential super fight coming up between him and Cejudo.
Oh yeah,
They
I like
talked
that.
a bit about. Me too.
Cejudo's fun.
A little bummed it's not Mighty Mouse fighting him, though. That was the fight everyone kind of wanted.
Yeah. Well, if Mighty Mouse was still the champ at that weight class,
Certainly it would be the
it
fight.
would. Yeah, it would definitely be the one.
And I think they were taking steps towards it before his fight with Garbrandt. But
Mhm.
then it fell out for some reason or other. I can't remember why.
Well, I remember he was saying like TJ's got to come and make 125,
Mhm.
and TJ wasn't fighting in that weight class, and TJ always said he could make 125. He's like, I can make 125.
Yeah.
But he wasn't making 125 then. So I think that was part of the issue.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not going to go up to 135.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and now he's not only is he trying to be the champ, he's trying to also go up and take 145 after taking 125.
Yeah.
He wants to be the champ.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it.
Yeah. And thanks to Conor McGregor for coming up with that
Yeah.
champ thing.
Totally.
Love it.
They need to. You think that they need to redo the weight classes, add some more weight classes?
I thought they were doing that. There was a bunch of talk about it.
Yeah, Rogan talks about it every second episode.
Yeah.
But
They've been talking that for a couple of years now.
yeah,
But yeah, I do think they should.
totally. Every 10 pounds. The thing is, though, it does kind of make sense to have larger gaps as you get bigger because basically as a percentage of the body weight, 20 pounds is a lot different to a 200-pound guy than 20 pounds to a 125-pound guy.
Right. Yeah.
So it does kind of make sense to have a little bit larger gaps, but yeah, they're probably a little bit too big.
Especially that
185 to
185.
205.
Yeah. That's aggressive. Like.
Yeah.
So what do you
so,
think
too.
then? It should go 170, 190, then 205?
No, because then that's too big there. Maybe
Oh, wait, that's no.
170,
Yeah, that's
185,
right. Then
200.
200 and then to 210 maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just the thing is also that you kind of want it to be round numbers.
Yeah.
Like, what it should probably be is a percentage relative to how much bigger, just a percentage of the body weight.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to fit it into a round number.
Yeah.
But then we have categories like 172. That's what they do in boxing, right?
Right.
Though the boxing categories aren't bang on the even numbers. So yeah, you have like 170 and then like 181 and then 195
Yeah.
or 194.
Certainly more scientific.
Yeah. So that's what I'm throwing out there. UFC, if you want to take my advice, go ahead.
Yeah. That's a free one.
Yeah, you can still call the weight classes the completely unrelated names that they have, welterweight and whatnot, but just change the weight a little bit.
Yep. I agree.
Add maybe 2 weight classes in, and then redo the whole spread.
And all that's going to do is make more super fights for you.
Yeah, which is awesome, and
everybody loves that.
Make it so that the giant guys aren't fighting the littler guys, and it'll just be everyone will be more the same size.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Anything else to say about that TJ podcast?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
For
my end, anyway.
How many alpha males out of 5 would you rate that one?
Oh.
What?
I liked that
4?
one a lot. I'd say 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my instinct too.
Yeah. So.
And then the last show of the week was 1172, Morgan Fallon.
Yeah. Yeah. Director, writer,
cinematographer
for
or
Parts
cameraman,
Unknown.
really. I guess I don't even know if cinematographer.
Yeah.
But I think he was mostly the cameraman for Parts Unknown and for the previous show that Tony Bourdain was on.
Mm-hmm.
Before.
Worked very closely with Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah. I have almost never heard anyone call him Tony. And then on the podcast, they're like, Tony's such a good dude, da da da. And I was like, did he go by Tony?
Well, then you're like, of course, right? Anthony.
Yeah,
Who wants to be called Anthony all the time?
Yeah, it's too long. You
Yeah.
can't call anyone by
Mouthful.
a long name.
No.
But literally, I'd almost never heard anyone say, I might have heard it once or twice, but anyone they're talking about Anthony Bourdain.
Joe's never said Tony Bourdain.
Yeah, he says Anthony Bourdain all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not that much of a mouthful.
I guess, yeah.
Show some fucking respect, Morgan. No, I don't know. Obviously, he's a lot closer to Anthony than I was.
Super emotional episode again.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Joe, too,
even more so than with the Nick one. You
Yeah.
saw real emotions coming from Joe there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. That's fitting. I want him to be real in the show, and it's if
I
you're
always
gonna
love when he does that because
and it shows that he actually cares about the topics and about the things he's talking about.
even though he's this tough guy a lot of the time. Although I think as the years have progressed here, he's definitely become more soft.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
on many things.
Yeah.
You're not
And
hearing any
he's-
more F-bombs. Not anybody's mouth anymore, I guess. But
He's acknowledged that as well.
yeah, which is great too.
Yeah. So yeah, they talked about well, I think maybe one of my favorite stories was when he met Anthony Bourdain and they were meeting in Cairo, and there was for some reason they had a bed, like a mattress strapped to the top of the Jeep, and they were like, all right, you can go up there and film from there.
Yeah.
And then they and he's, I don't know, he thought it was going to be like a quick little 100-yard thing, and then they drove for 6 miles and were doing crazy turns, and, and he was scared for his life the entire time. But then after he got out, and Anthony Bourdain was like, all right, man, cool, you fucking are awesome.
You lived through that.
yeah,
You must be my guy.
You're in. And that, the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good story.
Have you watched a lot of Parts Unknown?
I've not watched all of them, but I've watched probably 10.
Since that
Couple
podcast, I've
seasons.
gotten pretty interested. I definitely want to go check it out.
Yeah, it's my former roommate was watching them when he lived here, so I'd sit down with him every once in a while. But he was watching them a bunch when I wasn't around, so it was I was only catching them every fourth to seventh episode.
Yeah, he seems like a super interesting guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
What other good stories about that show? I thought, a crazy thing. He's talked about having bad experiences. He had in all of Africa, all the times they went there, he had one bad experience where the crowd turned on them a little bit, and they were like, "Okay, we got to go." And they got in the car and they were driving away, and people were throwing rocks at them.
Yeah.
The entire rest of the times he go there, he said he's never felt he felt safe the entire time. He's never had any other bad experiences. And in all of his travels in all of the world, he said he could count them on one hand. The number of times where he's felt unsafe. I've felt unsafe in Edmonton 12 times this week.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I've
He's
had-
always surrounded by his crew and cameras, and nobody's getting really too rowdy with a crew full of cameramen.
I guess.
Right?
I was thinking back to my youth, and I was like, oh my God, like I've been in so many sketchy situations where I felt unsafe.
Absolutely. Granted, we may have put ourselves there, but
yeah, I know
but definitely
making
dangerous
decisions. But yeah, even just like without putting myself, just walking like downtown in Edmonton at night, as an adult, 2 years ago, I'm like, shit, this is like, sketchy, and I feel unsafe here.
Tell him to go check out Hastings Street in Vancouver.
Yeah, no doubt.
Pretty sketchy.
And to be walking through Africa, I just can't believe that all they ever had was one time. He probably was unsafe many, many more times than he felt unsafe.
More just oblivious to it.
That's my guess, right?
Yeah, less street smart, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah. He also worked with Steven Rinella, which is a common topic and guest on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, a Joe Rogan favorite, Steve.
Yeah.
I think Steve Rinella is probably my favorite person to listen to in the hunting topic realm.
Super knowledgeable.
Oh yeah, and just really like balanced and like kind of like measured and really reasonable, really smart.
Yeah.
And I find with some of the other hunters that he has on, they're a little more like. Not that they're as yeehaw and as the typical stereotype for hunters is, but they're closer to that than Rinella is. That's for a damn sure.
Oh yeah.
So
huntery.
Yeah, a little more huntery.
Yeah. Well, they talked about one thing in particular that got me was how they had a bear lined up to kill, and Rinella that day didn't feel like doing it. And didn't.
Which
shows so much character.
If I'm remembering correctly, too, that bear was like it was like a mother bear with her cubs, and like not that that's always a reason not to kill a bear, but he had been watching them like play and watching them like interact and stuff, and then he's like, you know what, no, I don't feel like it. I remember when that happened and him telling that story on Rogan, like whatever, he was a guest on Rogan within a month or two of that happening, and I remember him telling that story. Yep. So I guess that's it for the week of Rogan episodes. What do you rate Morgan Fallon?
I'd say a 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
It gets less than Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, right. When you put it that way. Shit, I guess it has to have a 3.5 too then.
At least.
I just don't want to get crazy with high ratings.
It might be 3.75.
Because there are high rated shows that are so much better than some, right?
Yeah. We were talking about putting our bios together and talking about some of the old ones, and the first one with Graham Hancock, and man, some days I feel like I wish I had Alpha Brain before this, because I can't. I'm not pulling the names. I couldn't think of Daniel Cormier for a second earlier when I wanted to say Daniel Cormier, and I'm just not pulling the information quickly.
We need to get that on its sponsorship.
We need to get that on its sponsorship, because I need Alpha Brain like every day, because I'm stupid.
Me too.
So, Rogan, if you're listening to this, please hook it up. Let's get some sponsorship happening.
Yeah, it's the junk.
We don't need any money. Just send us enough Alpha Brain for us to keep doing this show.
Absolutely.
What the fuck was I talking about? I was gonna say something about. Was it about Steve Rinella?
No, I think we wrapped it up. You were going.
I was gonna look something up on my phone. Well, Shane, through the miracle of technology, I was able to go back and realize that it was trying to figure out who was with Graham Hancock on episode 142, and that was Duncan Trussell.
Yep,
one of my favorite Rogan guests.
Oh yeah,
I love Duncan Trussell.
I even went in for a bunch of his podcasts for a long time too.
Oh yeah, the Family Hour.
Yeah,
great show. Highly recommend. 4 out of 5 magic mushrooms for the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Yep.
So anyways, those are great shows. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Can't wait to recap these shows for you and give you our thoughts on these topics. And just so grateful to you guys for listening, and grateful to the man himself, Mr. Joe Rogan, for putting his show together. That it's really expanded our minds, and I feel like I've grown as a human being as a result.
Yep, and inspired me to do this.
Yeah. And you're doing the keto diet right now as well.
I am on the keto.
I'm talking with my girlfriend about doing sober ketober, which I was pretty proud of myself for coming up with that.
That's very
I
creative.
searched sober Keytober, and it didn't seem like anyone else had ever said it, at least in the Google search.
So the one tricky thing about that is you're going to have to skate through Thanksgiving on the keto diet.
That's true, eh?
That's
So
what
I
I'm
can
actually
have
stressed
a
about.
little bit of turkey, and then just a bunch of gravy.
Yeah.
Turkey
Yeah.
and
I think
gravy.
you can have cabbage. Does your family cook cabbage for?
No,
I
not
think it
really.
might be a newfie thing.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll get into the cabbage.
But
yeah,
or spaghetti squash
yeah,
is delicious.
totally. We'll make it work. We're not 100% committed to doing sober Keytober. We definitely were going to do sober October, and then I was like, hey, maybe we should, try to actually change our lives, with some diet stuff as well.
Mhm.
But we're not 100% committed. But listeners, I guess if you force us into it, if you write back and say, hey, Rubes, you should definitely do that. You're a fat piece of shit. Then
Well,
I'll be
here's the
like,
thing. You don't have to be in ketosis for this to benefit you.
No?
Like, you're going to lose weight, even if you're keeping a low-carb diet, right?
I'm going to have to check my blood every probably hour just to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I've not got that crazy yet.
No. Anything else we need to say?
No, I'm excited for the launch this week.
All right. Yeah, launch this week, probably, barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Email us if you got any questions, concerns, the Rogan Report at gmail.com.
Yeah, follow all the social medias, the Rogan Report or Rogan Report Pod.
Yep.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Like our Facebook page.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
It's going to be next week, every week.
Every week.
Joe Rogan's unique perspective is teaching us all how to best live, and we will attempt to recap all of his weekly podcasts. Now show your support and download the Rogan Report. The Rogan